World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
It's so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Good evening and welcome back to World Pro Racing. After what was a rather action-packed last week, we had the karting Genk race at in karting. We also had the opening round of the USF 2000 series, which you can catch up with round 2 tomorrow night at 20:30 Central European time with myself, Alex Goldschmidt, your commentator for this evening. And once again, I'll be joined by Chris Buxton as we head to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway after what was a rather exciting season opener at Adria International Raceway. We've got a lot of casual races coming up. We've also got some new developments. Anyone checked out our website today? Well, the new World Pro Racing F21 car is rather a true beauty to behold, isn't it? They do say that beauty is in the eyes of the beholder but when it's something that looks like that, that's absolutely fantastic. Tonight we are going into our second chapter of the Nightmaster Racing here on World Pro Racing, and as always, we can't not thank all our partners: Gaming Malta, Melita, who are powering the stream, Thrustmaster, GT Omega Racing, HyperX, where we're all gamers, and AMD. A warm welcome to all our viewers on the relevant World Pro Racing YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook live streams. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, don't forget to give it a like, a thumbs up, and why not subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. We also welcome our viewers from Malta's TVM Sports, Motorsport.tv, and eSports Television. So the format for tonight is a 15-minute free practice session, a 15-minute qualification session, and then a 40-minute race with a mandatory pit stop. Each driver must take on at least a couple of litres of fuel. The previous Nightmaster, Alex Johnston, not here to defend his title. So tonight we will crown a new Nightmaster. Obviously, we've got quite a few of the usual suspects on there, but a little bit of history about the Suzuka International Racing Course, as it is now currently known. Owned by Honda Motor Company, the operator is the Mobility Land Corporation, was opened back in 1962, and since 1987 it has held 30 Japanese Grand Prix, the most recent of which will be this one this year, because obviously with the COVID-19 pandemic, things are now starting to open up. It's hosted the Suzuka 8 Hours, it's hosted the Suzuka 10 Hours, the FIA World Touring Car Cup, Super GT, which are those silhouette like touring cars that are not too dissimilar from what DTM used to be before DTM switched to GT3 machinery for 2021. Super Formula, which is basically like the Japanese equivalent of nearly Formula One. The MJF Superbike, the D1 Drifting Grand Prix, and Super Taiko, which is also another endurance series based over in Japan. The architect of the circuit, the legend that is Mr. John Hugenholtz, and this is the only other FIA Grade 1 listed circuit that has a figure of 8 formation. The other one is Fiorano in Italy, obviously based at the home of the Cavallino Rampante, the prancing horse that is, of course, Ferrari. Now, the capacity for the stands at Suzuka itself are 155,000, and the current track layout sits at 18 corners, 3.609 miles, 5.807 kilometers. So, without further ado, let's go into the deep of night and head over to Japan and Suzuka, as things should be underway for our 15-minute free practice session. There is Dan Ginchard, the recently crowned Rainmeister, in the number 37 PC Boys Esports Mercedes AMG GT3. Also got Samuel Foch, Nathan Thomas, David Ohak, Jan Niklas Ebrich. Myself and Nathan Mifsud have already been saying in the chat who Armani is on. Well, Nathan Mifsud is clearly on Gurgly Kunsabo in the number 34 Honda, and it's quite fitting that we've got a couple of drivers in there, and Gurgly's decided to opt for the Modulo Drago Corse, The car itself, built in-house at Jazz Motorsport in Italy, and Gergely Consabo is not the only driver to be running the Honda NSX GT3 Evo this evening. Ashton Cox in the 158 is also doing so, but Jan-Niklas Ebrich sticking to the machinery that has served him well here on not just Assetto Corsa Competizione, but also on World Pro Racing, is a multi-time casual race winner. Nearly got 3 on the bounce last year. So the 299 from Germany. He's currently rounding out the top 6 in free practice, so we've got just 2/3 of the session remaining. Remember, it is a 15-minute qualifying session that will be up after this one, and the servers respective of the nighttime sky. The server's currently showing at 11:31 p.m. as Jan-Niklas Ebrich goes through 130R, and that looks to be the other one of the other Lexuses out there. We've got Alan and Chris Gooch from Team Valkyrie. That looks to be Alan Gooch that has decided to do so. Let's go on board for a hot lap with Jan-Niklas Ebrich out of last corner, down the main straightaway, heading towards turn number 1, which is apparently known as first turn. 6th gear, down on the brakes, down into second before turns 1 and 2, before he starts going into the S-curves. Now this is where you have to getting into queue as always. Yeah, well, at least you haven't missed the race start. Who's your money on tonight? That's what we want to know here in the chat on YouTube. Through the S's. He's now going to come through into turn 7, which then brings him onto Dunlop. Up to 4th gear. Squeezing every amount of acceleration through that. Going through into Degner 1. Down to 4th gear now. Down again into 2nd gear through Degner 2. Anyone might remember Heikki Kovalainen's incident a few years ago in the McLaren, where he ended up backwards and mounting the wall with the rear of his McLaren through the exit of Degner 1. Through into the hairpin at turn 11 before the right-hander here at 200R. Right, so we've got 3 different people that people are rooting for. So Q is rooting for Ashton Cox. Okay, let's see if that happens, because Ashton is currently 9th in the session. Through Spoon Curve comes Jan-Niklas Ebrich. Allows the Lexus RCF GT3, 5.4 litre V8 naturally aspirated engine. Oh, he's struggling with traction. They're coming out of the second part of Spoon Curve. Now down the backstretch, heading towards the iconic 130R. Completely fully planted, fully committed. Turns in, down to 5th. Lets the car drift to the right. Good showing there from Jan-Niklas Ebrich, deep on the brakes into the Casio Triangle, where Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost came together back in 1988. Senna would then be pushed forward by the marshals, Prost would retire, and the former would then end up being disqualified from the race, and Prost was handed the title. Dan Ginchard, in the meantime, looking to not just become the Rainmaster, but he's also looking to become the Nightmaster as well. So Dan Ginchard currently with running in with a high-profile team actually run by Ron Meadows in karting. He signed with Argenti Motorsport last year and went to the Rotax Max Challenge International Trophy at Portimao in his debut with the team. And yeah, I was there, and I remember the most emotional moment that I've dealt with someone that I know very, very well. And Ginchard showed that he was the man on point. And oh, good evening to our regular here. Good evening, Luke Whitehead from H3 Racing. And I hope you're looking forward to Sprint Cup round 2 at Misano with Hamada Erquizi on Thursday night. There's Reiner Hesse. As always, these colours that Reiner always brings to the party, very bright and very much fluorescent. I think I've got a highlighter. Yeah, actually, yes, I've got a highlighter that in my hand right now that showcases how bright that colour is, and I'll show you in the break between qualifying and practice. But at the moment, Dan Ginchard leads the way on 1 minute 59.850 ahead of Samir Foch in the number 8 Ferrari, who's just under 0.2 of a second adrift. Then it's David Ohak in the number 13 Audi, rounds out the top 3. And then we have Renato Dornelles from Vacuum Racing. I know you're nervous, Luke, but who's your money on tonight, buddy? We've had 3 different people. I've said Jan-Niklas Ebrich. Nathan Mifsud said Gurgly Consabo. Q said Ashton Cox. Who's your money on tonight, buddy? That's what I want to know. Come on, Luke. Give us some driver insight. Okay, if you didn't just hear what I said about the fact that Luke Whitehead and Hamada Erquizi are in the Sprint Cup for the Sim Grid, which has its second round at Misano this coming in just 2 days' time. Oh, crikey. I know I've got a busy week ahead of me. But there's Heiner Hesse going through 130R in the McLaren 720S GT3. 4-litre twin turbo. V8 engine, the M840 designation, pushing around about in excess of 700 Newton meters of torque, and one of several mid-engined rear-wheel drive cars here. Oh, I like that optimism there, Luke. Semi-Foch in a fast car, but it could be anyone. And then there is the Latvian. What a team name. Oh, goodness me. You know, can you stop telling people to take sides? Everyone's got their own opinion. They're entitled to it. But Semi-Foch has now kept it in second position. Just got under 4 minutes of the session still to go. So it's Skinshard from Semi-Foch, Ohak, and we've got Renato Dornelles from Vacuum Racing, Nathan Thomas from Omega E, and Lucas Romanek from PC Boys, Jan-Niklas Ebrich. Good to see Silver Pirmets fresh from his karting exploits, as that was a moment and a half there. Oh my goodness, going through Dunlop, and that's why he's got Code Brown Racing Team underneath there. He just had a Code Brown moment there, did Semi-Foch at that particular moment in time. But these things do happen. He's just come out of Degner 2 and making his way up to up towards the hairpin. So these drivers will be pushing in the next session. So Silver Pirmets rounds out the top 8, 1.524 seconds behind Dan Ginchard. Gurgly Kunsabo and Ashton Cox round out the top 10 in a pair of Hondas. We've got Coleman Corkery from SBR. We've got Peter Dombre from SRG rounding out the top 12. JP Sleater from PC Boys, he's running out the top 13 ahead of Rainer Hesse in the 690. So through into 130R goes Semi-Foch, fully committed, 3.9 litre twin turbo V8 engine in that Cavallino Rampante, producing around 700 Newton meters of torque, and there's a bit of a tank slapper there going on. Going through the Casio triangle for Semi-Foch as he now comes across the line. Just over 2 minutes of the session remaining. And Semi-Foch did lose a heap of time. A 2-minute 2.556 was his previous lap time there. Ashton Cox has just done an out lap. There is the H3 Racing 158 car. Going through into Spoon Curve. LED tail lights at the back end, flashing away like a gun as he modulates the brake going into the corner. Now exits out onto the back stretch, letting the car drift to the right hand side to allow a good momentum carry on the approach up to 130R, as we've got just over 90 seconds of the session remaining. And Adriano Mateos has just gone, I vote for Ebrich. Okay, so the pom-poms are definitely out there. So that's 2 for Jan-Niklas Ebrich, 2 for Ashton Cox, 1 for Gurgly Kunsabo. Ashton Cox now coming out of the final corner and goes across the line. So that was another slowish lap, and we'll now have one more opportunity. But to be honest with you, I wouldn't be at all surprised if drivers decide to hit the escape button and decide to see out the rest of the session in the pit lane. So 45 seconds still to go. Dan Ginchard having done a rather impressive lap, especially in the night time. Just 1.5 tenths shy is, oh, that's a moment and a half, and Nat Thomas going through Dunlop in the Aston Martin, another car that develops around 700 newton meters of torque from its 4-litre twin-turbo V8 engine, and Nat Thomas is all over the shop at the minute going through the Degners. Oh, he definitely had a lucky scare. Dan Hackett's already in there saying Dan Ginchard the GOAT. Well, at least you're in the pits when you're typing, Lucas. I'm sure you'll be fine. Session now completed. With Dan Ginchard at the top of the times. Samir Foch from Latvia coming through the S's. So that's through turn 3 and into 4. Now into 5. You're consistently using third gear. And you're modulating the throttle. And using the brakes from time to time going through. Now into Dunlop. This is where things get really interesting, because now you have to negotiate your way through Degner 1, then Degner 2. A lot of curb taken from Foch just then, as sparks fly up from the rear diffuser going through Degner 2, as the Ferrari now makes its way up towards the hairpin, turn 11. Now through the right-hander at 200R. On the approach to Spoon Curve, accelerating up the gear, so we'll probably be in around about 5th gear, over 230 kilometres an hour. The Silver Pyramids rounding out the top 7. Gurgley, Consabo and Ashton Cox have now rounded out the top 9. As Coleman Corkery in the number 23 drops to 10th position. Alan Gooch from Team Valkyrie hasn't really set a representative lap time, as now Samir Foch now goes steamrolling his way up to 130R. That was fully committed, and the sparks came flying off the diffuser as he clipped the curb on the inside. Now into the Casio triangle. Will the number 8 Ferrari have something to say about the time that Daniel Ginchard has set in the session? 1 minute 59.850. He pulls it into the pits, and that effectively concludes the session. Now, I did say about a highlighter in reference to the colours of Rainer Resser's McLaren 720S GT3. Is that close enough? We like to have a bit of a giggle here on World Pro Racing, and I'm no exception. But that's it for the session. Very shortly, we've got a 15-minute qualifying session, a 40-minute sprint race with the mandatory pit stop. The drivers have to take on fuel. And that's where things are going to get rather interesting. For those that remember who our top 3 was at Spa-Francorchamps back on the 9th of February, Alex Johnston was the inaugural Night Master here on World Pro Racing, followed by Theo Makouras, and the driver that I've picked as my my dark horse for tonight, Jan-Niklas Ebrich, rounded out the top 3. Now, qualifying is going to be rather important, but we know for a fact that here on World Pro Racing, it's sometimes, you're definitely right, Q. That is definitely one bright car, that McLaren. That could definitely be glow-in-the-dark and radioactive, given half a chance. So the times in qualifying are going to be rather important for grid position. Okay, we've got 8 rows, that's 16 drivers. Nevertheless, it's not about where you start, it's about where you finish. And to finish first you must finish. So we're now going to get things underway with qualifying, and there is Jan-Niklas Ebrich in the 299. He's now coming through Spoon Curve, so everyone apart from Coleman Corkery is currently out at this particular moment in time. Where's Nico for sure Hillebrand tonight? Nico is not with us this evening, to be honest with you, Luke. However, I know for a fact that I will be teaming up with him at some point later on. Not too sure when. But for a sprint race, you know, it's great to have 2 commentators, but we are doing dual commentary for all the respective championships. Obviously, we've got the HyperX Open Series starting on April 2nd. at Monza, as we now ride on board with the 299 from Germany into first turn. Now into turn 2. Second gear, now up the rev range. Hit the rev limiter, go up to third gear. Now he's gone up to fourth. Through the first part of it, you can now see he's going to have to start using that pendulum style momentum in the Lexus RCF GT3. Down to second through turn 6. Now into the left-hander at 7 for Dunlop. So they're going to start accelerating. Up to fourth. Up to fifth gear. Now hits the brakes hard. Down to fourth in Degner 1. Down a further 2 gears into Degner 2. Using the curve to allow the car to rotate. Now through the right-hander at turn 11. Before they happen at turn 11. After the right-hander at turn 10. Second gear. Up to third. That was a short shift there from Jan-Niklas Eberich to get the power down. Up to fifth gear as we go through the exit of 200R through into Spoon Curve. Down from fifth. It's down to third. He's gone down again through the second half of it, down to second gear. Through out of Spoon Curve comes Jan-Niklas Eberich. Up the back stretch. Now he will be hitting around 6th gear at about 240 kilometres an hour. There's 6th. Now he'll lift off ever so slightly, drop it down to 5th. And that's nice and neatly done through there. So Jan-Niklas Eberich going down into first gear through the Casio Triangle. The Lexus RCF GT3 will be the first one to set a benchmark time with just under 11 minutes on the clock in qualifying to go. Eberich comes powering towards the line and puts in a 2-minute 1.068. We've got one other driver now making their way down the start-finish straight. That is David Ohak, who in the number 13 Audi has just gone 9 thousandths slower. Now here's Nat Thomas. And behind him, looks like he's got JP Sleater. Thomas puts a time in. That's a 2-minute 2.235, but that was a disallowed lap time. Reiner Hesse goes P3. Here's Dan Ginchard as Chris Gooch goes P3. Ginchard now hustling his way towards the line. What's his time going to be? Oh, he goes provisional pole and nigh on a clear second ahead of Jan-Niklas Eberich in the number 37 Mercedes, but Samir Foch in the number 8 Ferrari goes just under 2.5 tenths of a second. So Dan Ginchard has set that benchmark. And there's the highlighter-esque coloured 690 McLaren 720S GT3 of Estonia's Reiner Hesse. So one of the biggest things about qualifying, as we found out with Nat Thomas, that his first lap in the number 7 Omega E Racing Team Aston Martin V8 Vantage, his time was disallowed. Now that would have put him around about P6 by approximation. It's great to see these cars competing under the nighttime sky. Track is at optimum air temperature and track temperature, equal at 19 degrees Celsius as Reiner Hesse nearly goes onto the tyre marbles coming out of Spoon Curve. He's got one of the Honda NSXs behind him, so that is either Gergely Kunsabo, well, that is Ashton Cox. They now go flying their way through 130R. Just listening to the exhaust notes are just absolutely glorious, wouldn't you agree? As Ashton Cox looked to be a little bit compromised possibly on that lap. Not 100% sure, but it looked like he stumbled going through the Casio Triangle. Nathan Thomas has now gone 4th, 0.861 seconds behind Dan Ginchard. David Ohak rounds out the top 5. Reiner Hesse stays in what is now P10, as that looks to be Gergely Kunsaba, I believe, that is coming out of the pit lane. Samir Foch from Latvia comes across towards the start-finish line. Now, will he improve? Goes P1, 1 minute 59.718. That is nearly a 10th and a half quicker than Daniel Ginchard posted in the free practice session. And we have just 7 minutes and 50 seconds still to go. Silver Pinamets also from Estonia. In the number 24 Aston Martin V8 Vantage GT3. That power plant's taken from a Mercedes, if memory serves me correctly. And hence why you see Aston Martin racing. So, Nat Thomas back in the pits again. So is Alan Gooch. Christopher Ligerson showing up on the timing screen, so he probably wasn't able to make it through into free practice, but he's joined us for qualifying. Lucas Romanek out in the 295. He's yet to set a lap time at this particular moment in time, but the 295 Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo now makes its way towards the left-hander at 130R. Full commitment there by Romanek, who absolutely sends Falterbach's finest through the corner. Hard on the brakes, taillights blazing in the dark, going through into the Casio Triangle. So Corkery has now put himself into third place ahead of Jan-Niklas Epprich. Nat Thomas has just exited the pit lane. Lucas Romanek with 6.5 minutes to go. Where will he factor in? P4, 2-minute .684 for the Mercedes. Dan Ginchard now has got to within 57 thousandths of a second as now we ride on board with Ginchard. So you can see he's using ABS setting 4, traction control setting 4, and map 1 for the fuel. So sometimes, dependent on, you know, in qualifying you're going to push it. Sometimes in the race you might have to do a little bit of lifting and coasting, or maybe using a little bit of modulation on the throttle and the brake pedal to facilitate, you know, stretching it out as long as possible when it comes to the fuel. But the battle for pole position still very much on between Samuel Foch and Daniel Ginchard, with just under 5.5 minutes of the session to go. Ginchard now goes through Degner 1 into Degner 2, and that's Rainer Resser just up ahead, that's gone wide on the exit of Degner 2. So Ginchard now is pushing like crazy, but Rainer Resser's not too far. Well, he's had to get out of the way. Plus also, Resser made a massive mistake coming out of T10. I think saw that Ginchard was coming up close and personal right behind him, and decided, well, I'm going to pull to the right hand side and then put both right hand wheels on the grass, and kicked up the dust. So Ginchard now pushing like crazy into Spoon Curve, currently in second gear. Now he's going to start to just modulate the throttle. He's resting with the steering wheel a little bit there, and decides that is an aborted lap. So he now puts it into the pit lane. David Ohak in the number 13 Audi R8 LMS Evo through 130R. He needs to improve from P7. He's just over 1.25 seconds behind Samuel Foch, who still leads the way in terms of the qualification side of things, with Gergely Kunsabo, Ashton Cox and Christopher Ligertson not yet having set a competitive lap time. Ohak now improves and goes P4 and spins it! He tried turning in at the first corner, and that car was not compliant whatsoever. Christopher Ligertson now goes on to his first official flying lap of qualifying. Hasn't really set a respective lap time, but the number 52 comes out of the first turn, takes a little bit of curbing, going through turn 2, now into 3 and then into 4. And Ligertson having a bit of a scruffy moment there through turn 6 and 7. And oh no, that's not you want. Exiting stage right, going off Dunlop. Nat Thomas now goes very wide, coming out of Spoon Curve. Now down the back stretch, heading towards 130R. Dan Hackett quickly getting corrected on his spelling in the YouTube chat. Thank you very much for that, Debbie Burston. So still time to decide who will be on pole position for the Nightmaster 2 here at Suzuka International Racing Course, formerly known, more famously known as the Suzuka Circuit, and it's located in Ino, Suzuka City in the Mie Prefecture. And Nat Thomas has got to within half a second of Samir Foch. So now the battle for pole position well and truly on. Top three covered by just under half a second. Foch from Ginchard and Thomas. Ebrich in fourth. Corkery in fifth. Ohak, Romanek. They round out the top seven. As Romanek now coming through 130R. And a very stealth black looking Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo. He now makes his way through the Casio Triangle. Sparks being flown from the rear splitter on that car as Romanek now comes out of the final turn. That's 6.2 litre V8 naturally aspirated engine bellowing its way across towards the line. P6 for Romanek. Now, that means that is his last attempt, but Daniel Ginchard going through Dunlop might have a say in proceedings. Through Degner 1, now into Degner 2. Nice and tight there. Romanek's decided to pit, so even if he got out now, he would not be able to complete another full lap or an out lap before the end of the qualifying session, which is in just about a minute's time. Ginchard now comes through the hairpin into 200R. Ginchard allowing the car to drift to the left-hand side, coming through the sweeper. Now into Spoon Curve. Dan Ginchard's really got to nail this well and truly, coming through the exit of Spoon Curve. Now he's just got 130R and the Casio Triangle to circumnavigate. And if he's quick enough, he might even be able to put in another lap. Through 130R goes the number 37. Sparks flying again from the rear diffuser. Hard on the brakes into the Casio Triangle. As Ginchard now goes over the curbs. Through the right, through the left. Now through the final corner. Dan Ginchard, will he have an answer to get it on provisional pole position? Mercedes now hurtles its way across the line. It's provisional pole with 4 seconds on the clock. A 1 minute 59.664 from Daniel Ginchard. Checkered is now out for the session. Samir Foch now coming through Spoon Curve. Romanek has called it a day. Chris Gooch has as well. So has Rainer Hesse in the number 690 highlighter colour McLaren 720S GT3. Foch now making his way down towards 130R for the final time. David Ohak takes 6th position. Nat Thomas 3rd. Jan-Niklas Ebrich could still be out on a hot lap, but we won't find out until very shortly. Samir Foch just has the Casio Triangle to circumnavigate, and he's got a Ferrari. That's Christopher Leigritzen just up ahead as Leigritzen gets out of the way. Samir Foch out of the final corner. Will the number 8 do anything? As sparks fly from the back of Leigritzen, Samir Foch pushing the accelerators to the floor. Will it be enough? No, it will not. Dan Ginchard takes pole position, and what's more, he's now making his way through Spoon Curve. He crossed the line with 5 seconds to go, so he had another opportunity at maybe even further extending that gap. Let's see. He's now coming out of Spoon Curve, down the backstretch. Let's keep with Ginchard at the moment. So Samir Foch will start alongside Ginchard on the front row, but how far will Ginchard push the limit of adhesion in qualification? Through 130R for one more time. Now down into the Casio Triangle. No, he's called it a day. I think coming out of there, he decided that was enough. So Dan Ginchard and Samir Foch will be on the front row of the grid for Nightmaster 2 here at Suzuka. Alex Johnston will, I think through no fault of his own, obviously not being here tonight, his title now becomes vacant. It sounds like something from the WBC or the WBO when it comes to a boxing match. But we have a 40-minute race. A mandatory pit stop, refueling is required, and under the nighttime sky. Remember what we had at Spa? We had drama. We had it especially on the first lap. Who's not to say that here at Suzuka things may be any different? The unpredictability factor for a 40-minute sprint race with a mandatory pit stop where you've got to refuel, the drivers are going to have their eyeballs on stalks. They're going to have their eyes in the rearview mirrors a lot of the time. They've got to just make sure that things are the way they need to be. And that's the biggest point in night racing. Night racing is the most toughest part of racing, especially if you race at the Le Mans 24 hours or the ADAC 24 hours of the Nürburgring Nordschleife, the Total 24 hours of Spa-Francorchamps. You know, there are races, the 12 hours of Sebring, the Rolex 24 at Daytona. There are so many different endurance races where nighttime driving is so paramount. And to have that here as a part of the conduits that we have here on World Pro Racing is very, very much the case. So Dan Ginchard will be on pole. Samuel Foch, Nat Thomas did a great job in the Omega E Racing Aston Martin. You know, it's going to be a case of who is going to get the jump on everybody else. The start is the key point in any sports car race, and with some of these drivers being from the karting fraternity, rolling starts is part of their raison d'etre. Is how the races get going. So that's what we're going to expect here. I don't know how long we've actually got, but it looks like we are going to the track and we are going to start at 1:30R. So, Nightmaster 2 here at Suzuka International Racing Course. 40 minutes on the clock. It is Ginchard from Foch, Thomas from Ebrich, Corkery rounding out the top 5, Ohak in 6th, Romanik in 7th, Ashton Cox will start P8, JP Sleater 9th, Peter Dombre from SRG rounds out the top 10 ahead of Gergely Kunsabo in 11th. So, Silva Pirmets, Chris Gooch, Reiner Hesse, Alan Gooch, and Christopher Ligretson. That is your 16-strong grid. Now we wait. We anticipate. We bide our sweet time. And now, who's going to have some cheerleaders tonight? Obviously, Ashton Cox has already got one. But we wait patiently. The drivers are primed and ready. They must be doing no more than 70 kilometers an hour and be in the correct position, because are we ready? Are we steady? Ladies and gentlemen, the Nightmaster Part 2 here at Suzuka is green. We are off and away, and Samuel Foch gets a good start ahead of Daniel Ginchard as they go into turn 1 for the first time. Thomas up the inside of Ebrich. The Lexus runs wide. Corkery not too far behind, but someone exits stage left at the back part of the field, and Jan-Niklas Ebrich trying to do his level best to get past Nat Thomas, but Thomas not having him anyway. Having it anyway, and there is Lucas Romanik on the back bumper of David Ohak. It's getting rather a bit untidy. Ashton Cox just behind this warring duo with JP Sleater in close proximity. Gergely Kunsabo behind Peter Dombret. So now the drivers making their way through into the Dagnus for the first time. And it was Gergely Kunsabo that had the off. So Nathan Mifsu's pick has ended up having to have a mountain to climb, as Christopher Ligretson sparks a lot of there's a lot of sparks from his rear diffuser, as now things really get up close and personal. Nat Thomas has got Jan-Niklas Ebrich chasing him down. We go on board with a number 7 from Omega E Racing Team through into the left-hander at Spoon Curve, and the gap between Foch and Ginchard last time was around 5.5 tenths of a second. Now hopefully the Mercedes good to hear from 123 Alex Alexander that he's on his way. Oh, good luck at Marienburg this weekend for, I would imagine, the Iami X30 Euro Series opener. Oh, moment for Cox! Spinning off! Now, I'm not too sure. Was there a little bit of contact? Or did he just lose it and that was going through 130R. Oh my goodness me. Don't worry, I will be watching that closely because my good friend Jake Sanson will be on commentary duty this weekend. So all the very best of luck at Marienburg, a track that is a real lovely track, Karting Defagne. And that is it. Ashton Cox is out. The Honda had terminal damage as a result of that spin going through the exit of 130R. So that puts us down to 15 out of the 16 competitors. Jan-Niklas Ebrich, third and last time out for the Nightmaster when we went to Spa-Francorchamps. Now it's Suzuka. Suzuka has already claimed its first victim. On lap number 2, there's David Ohak, who's got silver pinmets from Estonia behind him, and Lucas Romanek in the 295 just up ahead. 3 minutes gone, 37 to go. Mandatory pit stop yet to be served, but as soon as the pit stop window opens, drivers will have a small amount of time to get that done. Foch leads from Ginchard, Thomas, Ebrich. Corkery rounds out the top 5. Romanek, Ohak, Pinmets on your screen, they round out the top 8. JP Sleater and Chris Gooch round out the top 10. Reiner Hesse up into 11th. Christopher Leigritsen ahead of Gergely Kunsabo. Alan Gooch in 14th. And Peter Dombret rounding out the 15 with Ashton Cox, a sudden retirement after that massive spin at 130R. We go on board with the Aston Martin. Right, so there is an incident on lap number 1 between the 24 and the 888. That was Silver Pinmets, and Peter Dombret is being informed by race director Adrian Figallo what the penalty that will be issued is. Oh, there's been a moment for David Ohak. He's also spun. Coming out of 130R. Ohak off the road. Oh, and that Audi showcased a lot of dust as soon as you hit the grass there. 130R is catching people out, and especially with the fact that the server is at 1:07 AM. So, first penalty issued of the night, or the early morning. Silver Pirmets gets a 10-second penalty for causing an avoidable collision. So Silver Pirmets, when he has his pit stop, will have to take that first before any work can be done on his Aston Martin. So dramas for both Ashton Cox and then David Ohak. It looks like Cox has rejoined. Not showing in the pits anymore, but Jan-Niklas Ebrich as Coleman Corkery closing in. So the SBR driver closing on the DJ Racing driver of Jan-Niklas Ebrich. Going through. And Gergely Kunsabo has already started making his way back up the field. As the number 34 Honda NSX GT3 Evo now up into 10th position and is ahead of the number 25 of Team Valkyrie's Chris Gooch, with the Lexus spitting sparks from the rear diffuser going through Degner's 1 and 2. So Samuel Foch now gets his way a bit further ahead than Dan Ginchard. The gap now 1.87 seconds. Ginchard put it on pole, but Samuel Foch has now got the initial getaway. Nat Thomas rounds out the top 3. He's 1.6 seconds behind Dan Ginchard. Then it's Jan-Niklas Ebrich for the 2.1 seconds adrift. Coleman Corkery is nearly 6/10 behind Jan-Niklas Ebrich, and he rounds out the top 5. So Pinamats, I think, will be kicking himself at this particular moment. So we are just having some issues with replays at the moment, so hopefully we'll get some up as soon as they do start to appear. But now, this battle really intensifying. It's Sleater versus Hesse versus Kunsabo versus Chris Gooch. And now it's a 3-car brawl for what is 9th position at the moment. Oh, Gooch looked up the inside of Kunsabo, but Kunsabo looking up the inside of Hesse, going through turn 1. Gooch ever so close to the back bumper of Kunsabo in the number 34. And now, now Gooch was being a little bit cheeky there, trying to stick his nose in, but it was not really the perfect opportunity. see how hard Gergely Kunsaba is working behind the wheel. He's having to make a decision. Does he go for a move on Reiner Hesse? Possibly the next time would be up towards the hairpin, but he's going to try and chance it. No, he can't do it there, going through into the Degners, as Chris Gooch nearly hits the back bumper of the Honda through Degner 1, now into Degner 2. Gergely Kunsaba could get a good run, but it depends on what Chris Gooch does now. Kunsaba is now effectively the meat in the sandwich between a Lexus and a McLaren. The former just behind, through 200R, up to third. Up to fourth. Fifth gear. Can Kunsaba go deep on the brakes on Ressa? He's looking towards the inside. This time he tries to go for the move. Oh, and Reiner Hesse ends up going wide. There was a gap. Gergely Kunsaba went for it and he got through on the entrance into Spoon Curve. But I think he's now realised that was possibly a little bit too robust. So he's doing the sportsmanlike thing. Or is that the fact that the torque of that McLaren, Reiner Hesse has pulled alongside him. Chris Gooch right in the ringside seat, nearly two abreast. Gergely Kunsaba runs wide, coming out of 130R. As he and Hesse were nearly side by side going through that corner. Chris Gooch looking for the opportunity. Reiner Hesse not letting Gergely Kunsaba out of his sight. But Gergely Kunsaba, God, that was absolutely gutsy for him to throw that up the inside through Spoon Curve. And now Chris Gooch senses an opportunity on the McLaren going through into turn 1. The Lexus pulls alongside. Hesse hangs it round towards the outside. Gooch trying to cut back through into turn 2. Now there's also been another incident. The 295 of Lucas Romanek. And that was on David Ohak. I think a penalty is coming Lucas Romanek's way. As our race director just about to inform me. A 5-second time penalty as a result of that. Samuel Foch has now got a lead of just over 2 seconds ahead of Dan Ginchard. Nat Thomas rounds out the top 3 and is exactly 3 seconds behind Ginchard at the moment. So that is your top 3. Jan-Niklas Sebrich will need to do a bit of a strategy call here, I think, in the pit stop phase. As we are 30 seconds away from hitting a quarter of this race completed. 40 minutes in total, 1 mandatory pit stop. Don't forget, head to worldproracing.com. That's our official website. And then you can click on the events tab to find out what is going on in the world of World Pro Racing. And quite a few events coming up in the meantime, such as the ones that I've just mentioned this week. The USF 2000 Series Round 2 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway with myself and Chris Buxton on commentary. And we have the 2 hours of Map Panorama this coming Friday, the 26th of March at 8:30 PM Central European Time. There'll be a 15-minute free practice session, 15-minute qualifying session, and then a 2-hour race with 2 mandatory pit stops that will require mandatory refueling, and it will be a 5-time server multiplier. So there is Chris Gooch. Looks like the Audi of David Ohak has started to firing on all 5.2 litre, all of that 5.2 litre naturally aspirated V10 engine taken from the road car. I used to work at an Audi dealership when they brought out the current look of the R8, not as the LMS but the road car. Absolutely mean piece of kit. As all moment there for Chris Gooch going through Dunlop. Oh, he nearly loses the back end to the right hand side and came through turn 7, went through Dunlop. The car decided to drift to the right, ended up putting him on the grass, and he kicked up the dust and the sparks started to fly from the rear diffuser, so that allowed David Ohak to get past. On lap number 6 of the race, there's Alan Gooch. He's got Peter Dombre in the number 888 Ferrari. And funnily enough, the number 888 used by Craig Lowndes, a multi-time Bathurst Super G Auto Bathurst 1000 winner, multi-time Supercars champion with Red Bull, Holden Red Bull Racing. Now ending up in broadcast duties as a pundit. So Foch still leads. Ginchard now 2.6 seconds behind. Nat Thomas still rounds out the top three. As we go on board with the Code Brown Racing team. And for those uninitiated that are actually new to this, Code Brown basically means when you've had a moment that requires a change of underwear. And that's used quite a lot by commentators. Well, I just say change of underwear. Some people I know who are younger than me, they use Code Brown. But the main thing is that Samuel Foch doing a great job at the moment, leading the way. So the three picks that myself, Nathan Mifsud, Q and Luke Whitehead also pulled out of the bag. Well, I think the highest place at the moment is Jan Niklas Eppich, so we'll see if he can close in on Nat Thomas. The gap between them is just over a second, so yeah, that's going to be rather interesting how things pan out over the next few moments or so. And the biggest thing will be what is going to happen when we get to the pit stop phase. So, out of the final corner, Samuel Foch now will complete his 7th lap here at Suzuka. So, we've completed around about 40 kilometres so far. Make that a lot more than 40 kilometres because it's 5.807 kilometres here at Suzuka. Just over 40.6 kilometres. Current lap record overall on the Grand Prix circuit, which has been in operation since 2003. 7-time Formula One World Champion, going for an 8th title this year, Sir Lewis Hamilton. That was back in 2019. The motorcycle Grand Prix variation has got Jonathan Ray from the Kawasaki Racing Team, obviously at 2 wheels, and that was from the FIM Endurance World Championship. Alain Menu in touring cars holds the... So, pit stop window now officially open for the next 10 minutes. So it will close with 15 minutes to go. The original circuit, without the original circuit was just over 6 kilometres long, 6.004 kilometres, and 3.728 miles, 17 turns, because back then they didn't have the Casio Triangle, which was introduced back in 1983. The driver that has the race lap record for that was in a Formula 3 car back in 1982. Aguri Suzuki in a Formula 3 car back in 1982 with a 1 minute 54.247, which is rather comparable to, well, a little bit quicker than the times that we're seeing at the moment. So, Ashton Cox is the first driver to pit. 9 minutes on the pit stop window still to go. Now, one of the biggest things here is that if you do not serve your pit stop, that is an automatic 130-second post-race penalty. That can hit hard. Nat Thomas now pits for Magari Racing. Corkery's in. They're all starting to flood in now. I think I've just seen Lucas Romanek. He'll have to serve his 5-second penalty before the car can be worked on. So, trundling down the pit lane at around 50 kilometres an hour. If they exceed that, it's an instant stop go 30, which means that rather than 1 pit stop, you have to serve 2. JP Sleater in the pits now as well. So, Romanek's car now has served the 5-second penalty, René Ressa has been promoted up into what is effectively 7th place and has Peter Dombret closing in on behind him, I believe, in the Triple Eight as they go through turn 3. Oh, there's been a turnaround. René Ressa has been turned around by Peter Dombret going through the S's. That was through turn 4. And René Ressa's car did a 360 and then the back end hit the barriers. So that McLaren will need to have some damage repair. Look, you can see that car's not tracking true at all. René Ressa off again, and that's going through the entrance into Dunlop. René Ressa's car is absolutely mullered. I would think that that is going to be a possible penalty for Peter Dombret, who might... Well, it just depends on how quickly we get a response from race control, because depending on that, if Dombret decides to serve his pit stop, he'll have an additional 5 seconds added on. Samuel Foch now crosses the line for lap 9 in the books. So we're getting closer to 50 kilometres completed. Dan Ginchard still behind him. And the gap between them is 2.68 seconds. Jan-Niklas Ebrich now pits. So third last time out. There's Alan Gooch. In the Team Valkyrie Lexus, going through 130R. And he's got Nathan Thomas about 9/10 behind him. Well, not even that. So Thomas closing in. Now, with the distance on this race, well, with the fact of being a 40-minute sprint race, I would not expect drivers to change tyres. But that could be a case that someone might decide, well, I've overcooked the tyres for the first stint, I'm going to put some new ones on. And Jan-Niklas Ebrich rejoins in 4th position, 16.8 seconds off of Silver Pinmetz. Right, race direction now making a call, and René Ressa spun on his own. So Peter Dombret does not have a penalty to worry about. It was René Ressa's mistake on his own going through turns 3 and 4. There is Gergely Kunsabo yet to serve his mandatory pit stop. So we've got Foch, Ginchard, Pinmetz, Dombret, Gooch. That's Alan Gooch, Gergely Kunsabo and Christopher Ligretson. René Ressa now serving his pit stop, and I think he's going to be in there for quite a considerable amount of time. And the reason why I say this is by spinning out on your own and having a massive tank slapper and going into the wall backwards, that back end of that car will need repairing. And Ressa has been in there for quite a time. 5 minutes left on the pit stop window. We are now halfway through the race. As now Dan Ginchard decides to blink and pull into the pits. Now Silver Pinmetz will now go into the pits. This will promote Jan-Niklas Ebrich into 4th, depending on, well, 3rd, depending on where he is. Now there is the German in the 299 coming through into 130R. Peter Dombret just behind has still got a service mandatory pit stop. But the question that I have to ask now, how long will it be before Pinmetz comes out of the pits? Because it looks like Ginchard might be doing so now. Here's Ebrich. Now he's coming across the line very, very shortly indeed. Ebrich now is in 3rd place. Where is Ginchard? Ginchard looks to have gotten up the road a little bit. Yep, that is the case. So Dan Ginchard retains 2nd position. But now both he and Ebrich need to start motoring on a little bit here, because Samuel Foch has still got to serve his pit stop. And he's only got 3.5 minutes. Now, if I was Samuel Foch, you could maybe extend that for a further lap, but if I was him right now, I would pit. And depending on whether he decides to put on fresh tyres, that could also ultimately decide how much closer, as Samuel Foch nearly, well, he clips the grass going through into the entrance of 130R into the Casio Triangle. Foch could stretch this out for another lap, but is he going to? No, he's not. He must have heard me right there and then, because now he's come into the pits. Daniel Ginchard will know that Foch is there in the pit lane, and now he's got to get motoring. Ginchard now coming through the exit of Spoon. And now heading down the back stretch. So my biggest question is, how soon will it be before Samir Foch? Now it hasn't gone green on his pit stop. Now that says to me, has Samir Foch had a moment in the pit lane, or has he decided to put on tyres? Because the way things are going, Daniel Ginchard coming out of the final corner. Samir Foch still in the pits. Oh, now he drops down. Now this is going to be close. Ginchard is going to get the lead. Foch is only just exiting out of pit lane. Ginchard's in front. Ginchard's got the lead. I think that is the case, or is not. Is it not? I'm not sure. So I saw a dot go past him. Ginchard is in front. That looks to be Ginchard in front. So Samir Foch is confirmed. Bottom right hand of your screen confirms it. Samir Foch now in second. As we've got just over 90 seconds of this pit stop window to go. Oh, a moment for Samir Foch. Now that would indicate cold tyres. Oh, Samir Foch now really has to start warming up those tyres rather quickly, whilst trying to keep in touch with Dan Ginchard. Gap between them just under a second and a half through the two Degners. We're riding on board with the number 8. So Dan Ginchard has become the new Rainmaster here on World Pro Racing. Dependent on what Samir Foch does now over the next 16 minutes, depends on whether Ginchard will also become the Nightmaster as well, taking the title away from Alex Johnston. So Alex Johnston heading towards Marienborg in Belgium at this particular moment in time with Carly Atkins. As they're getting back to karting. There's David Ohak. He's being closed in on by Gurgly Kunsabo. Oh, Kunsabo. Now, Kunsabo is still showing as the only driver to have yet to pit, and that timer is counting down rather quickly. And if Gurgly Kunsabo, this will put him pretty much right towards the back part of the field, which would definitely make sure that his night does not end on the right way possible. Oh, Gurgly Kunsabo, I don't think he's pitted.
Pit window is now closed.
Oh, now, Kunsabo, I think, has not pitted, and he's spun it coming out of 130R. I think that's his race done. So Gurgly Kunsabo on course for a top 10 finish. The pit stop window closed as he was coming down the back straightaway. Oh, it's too late. Gurgly Kunsabo, I think he realises. I think he left it one lap too long. That means he gets a 130-second time penalty post-race. That is not how you want to have your race completely compromised. All bar one had pitted in the pit stop window. As now, that is Ashton Cox on Reino Hesse going through Spoon Curve. And just like Q said on the YouTube chat, oof. Yeah, that's definitely like a big kick downstairs with a steel toe cap boot. That's probably how Gurgly Kunsabo is feeling right about now. The amount of disappointment that he'll have. But it is what it is. It's racing. We go on board with Ashton Cox, who now is behind Reiner Hesse. I'm wondering, is that Christopher Ligerson that's just up ahead? That is the case. So, Ashton Cox in the HD Racing Honda NSX GT3 Evo. Made some good headway. And looks to improve in positions by the end of the race. So Ashton Cox really closing in. Rainer Ressa and Christopher Ligertson. They are split by probably what? No less than, well, just under half a second, I would have thought. So these drivers now, this is going to be a great battle in the last 12 3/4 minutes, as there's Ressa trying to get past Ligertson. Cox has to put on the anchors. That's going through Dunlop now into the Degners. So Ashton Cox just needs to keep the ringside seat and stay where he is, and see if there's a bit of impetuousness from Ressa or Ligertson that forces them into a mistake. Good tactical driving there by Ashton Cox. Through the right-hander at turn 10 and into the left-hander at the hairpin for turn 11. Down to first gear. Ligertson runs wide through 200R. So Rainer Ressa looked ever so quick, looking towards the inside. But Ligertson had the number 690's number right there and then. I've already seen one audacious move up the inside through Spoon Curve, and that was by Gergely Kunsabo earlier on in the race. Ligertson running a little bit wide going through the first part, now through the second part. Ressa looking up the inside. Cox now powers out of Spoon Curve as well, gets straight into the slipstream, through into 130R, looks to the left, looks to the right. Now alongside Ressa, he's nearly going 2 wheels on the grass. It's going to be nearly 3 abreast going into 130R. Ashton Cox better just leave it behind. Does the right thing as Ligertson goes straight off at 130R. Oh, Ligertson. That was definitely not how you wanted to exit the circuit. Straight on at 130R. I think he completely missed his braking point right there and then. However, Ashton Cox still closing up the inside of Rainer Ressa through into turn 1. And on this particular occasion, Ressa keeps it wide round the outside. Through turn 2, Ashton Cox still trying to find a way past in the Honda NSX. And that is not happening quite just yet. Other battles up and down the order. Well, the other battle that I'm really interested in very shortly will be the battle between Daniel Ginchard and Semir Foch in the battle for the lead, because it was 1.5 seconds when Foch came out of the pit lane behind Ginchard. Now the gap is down to 1.1 seconds as we are on lap number 15. Round towards the outside of Dunlop goes Ashton Cox. That was never going to work in a month of Sundays. And he's the car spits sparks from its diffuser, as does Rainer Ressa's car from the rear diffuser going through the 2 Degners. Ginchard going through Degner 2. And there is Semir Foch. The gap has come down. Foch has just eaten into it by about 0.3 of a second. And we've got a quarter of this race remaining. 10 minutes to go. And Ginchard now finds that he has got pressure from Semir Foch as they now go through into Spoon Curve through 200R. So Ginchard trying to keep things nice and composed. Down the back straightaway. Through towards 130R. Go the 2 leaders. Less than 9.5 minutes to go. Gap now up to 1.2. So Ginchard using the straight line grunt of the Mercedes, which has about 650 Newton meters of torque, to keep himself ahead of Semir Foch. The good thing is that with the different characteristics of these cars, Ginchard's got the car that has got the pointy front end, so you can literally slam on the brakes and turn the car in, whereas Semir Foch's Ferrari has a bit more of the agility and the centre of gravity dynamics that assist it. But Foch has got the gap down to just under a second as we're on lap number 16. And the circuit itself here at Suzuka has been modified at least 8 times. And in 1983, when they inserted the Casio triangle, before that, cars would go by the pits at over 320 kilometres an hour. I think Christopher Ligertson has parked his car due to the damage sustained after straight lining it coming out of 130R. But Ginchard still keeping ahead of Samir Foch as the timer still ticks away. Less than 8 minutes to go. When Ginchard first joined us here at World Pro Racing, you know, outright speed, but I think just lacking that little bit of additional finesse. But we're seeing that coming to the forefront here for the Brit. You might have seen that Daniel Ginchard was also having had a Polish flag alongside his. Well, he actually has a Polish mother, who I know very, very well as well. Oh, Rainer Ressa, and as I say that, Ashton Cox goes spinning again. That's the second spin for Ashton Cox of 130R. There was definitely contact there. Well, the dramas, they keep on happening, don't they? Yeah, so, yeah. The good thing is that transferring from karting to sim racing, the skill set is there, but it's just adaptation. And now, Ginchard and Foch have to deal with possibly a little bit of backmarker traffic. But what this could bring in, I spy with my little eye a lone little Lexus in the background. Jan-Niklas Ebrich, 4.7 seconds behind Samir Foch and maybe closing. JP Sleater looks to have gotten a track limits drive-through penalty via the system software. Track temperature hasn't really dropped that much at all. It's only dropped 1 degree Celsius down to 18, a slight 3 km/h wind heading across the Degners, which has just been negotiated by Samir Foch and Dan Ginchard. They have got a back marker just up ahead going through, and that is Rainer Ressa. So Ressa's going to need to get out of the way very, very quickly indeed. Ginchard flashing the lights like a trooper. That has given him a bit of daylight there. And Samir Foch just sweeps around the outside of Dan Ginchard there. Sorry, not Dan Ginchard, of Rainer Ressa. And now he's got to try and do it all again. But time is fast running out. 5 minutes and 30 seconds of the Nightmaster 2 here at Suzuka International Racing Course. And quite interesting that Kozukai is the Japanese for international. I'm not even going to try and pronounce any Japanese at all because I'll probably fail. Oh, Samir Foch has gone off the circuit, coming out at 130R. Oh, Rainer Ressa nearly collects him. And you know what this means? Jan-Niklas Ebrich has just gained a bag full of time. And Rainer Ressa keeps out of the way. And lets Ashton... That was Ashton Cox going through. And there is Jan-Niklas Ebrich. And Samir Foch just lost well over 3 seconds after that moment through 130R. Code Brown Racing Team definitely is what is the mantra for Samir Foch at this particular moment in time. No pun intended, because that is definitely a moment that no racing driver wants to experience, especially as Ashton Cox and also David Orhak have experienced that at the outside of 130R. But now Jan-Niklas Ebrich can see Ashton Cox, and now Samir Foch just up ahead. We go on board with the 299 from DJ Racing, and there are 4 minutes left on the clock. So one of the other things, JP Sleater now serves his drive-through penalty. That'll put him down to around about 14th. But I think that after that moment off of 130R, Samir Foch, I think, has just damaged his tyres. He's overcooked them. So if there's a flat spot there, Foch will have that through the force feedback on his steering wheel. And that car will not be handling as it should be. Through Spoon Curve. Lap 18. Jan-Niklas Ebrich trying to put the power down. And try and close in on the cars in front. One of which will be, I think, Ashton Cox in the 158. Luke Whitehead, definitely the case. It was a real Code Brown moment for Samir. Yeah. I'm sure when I speak to him afterwards, I'll go, look, you did have a Code Brown moment, didn't you? But that's the thing. These things do happen. Silver Pyramid's now being closed in on by the Audi of David Ohak. So Ohak looking for 7th position. Okay, incident between Ashton Cox in the 158 and Rainer Resser in the 690. Race director now has just told me that that has been investigated. Oh, now apparently Posh's Twitch chat showed that he put a litre of fuel in the car. Right, Rainer Resser gets a 10-second time penalty for causing an avoidable collision between himself and Ashton Cox. But it looks like things are evening themselves out now, apart from this battle here. Pyramid's down the gears in the Aston Martin. Ohak and the Audi looking to sense an opportunity to get past. They now go through the S section. Lovely engine note from that Aston, wouldn't you say, ladies and gentlemen? Good old V8 twin turbo 4 litre. But Ohak looking rather racy. Thought better of it, trying to get through. We go on board with Ingolstadt's finest, or Neuburg am Donau, if you want to be pedantic with regards to Audi Sport and its customer rating efforts, headed up by Chris Hanke. Through into turn 11, the hairpin. Through 200R, as we are 60 seconds or so away from crowning a new Nightmaster. Dan Ginchard very much in the hot seat. It's now the new Rainmaster.
Right, man.
Now,
On the final lap. Give it all you can.
leader is on the 20th and final lap of this race. So we've covered in excess of probably the best part of 105 or so kilometres through this. There'll be 116.14 kilometres that will have been covered by our race leader, who is on the final lap as David Ohak trying to close in on Silver Pyramids. But there is Dan Ginchard. Let's stick with him. It's coming through Dunlop for the final time before the double right at the Degners. Hard on the brakes at the 50-metre marker board through Degner 1. Into Degner 2. And then he's just got the hairpin and a few more corners to go. The timer has hit 0. And through 200R for the final time. He put it on pole position, lost out on the start, but used his strategy to good effect. Daniel Ginchard in the number 37 from PC Boys Esports has mastered the night as well as the rain. Down the back straight away, he'll just have turns 15, 16 and 17. And in the meantime, David Ohak closing in again on Silver Pyramids as the Audi and the Aston coming out of turn 11. Not close enough for Ohak, but I would sense that here comes Ginchard. After 20 laps, 116 kilometres of racing, Dan Ginchard is not only the Rainmeister, he's also the Nightmaster as he takes the victory here at Suzuka in the Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo. Samir Foch was close but not close enough, takes second, and it's a second successive podium in Nightmaster racing for Jan Niklas Erbrich as we head back to the battle for 7th position. Silver Pyramids getting hustled by David Ohak. We go on board with the Audi. The Casio Triangle still to negotiate. Ohak sending it up the inside. Pyramids goes wide but keeps the apex through. Ohak trying to do his level best. He's trying to go round to the outside. Now trying to cut back to the inside. But Silver Pyramids will hold on for 7th position at the flag despite Ohak's best efforts. Oh my goodness me. Ginchard wins the Nightmaster 2 here at Suzuka as the flares have been set off in the background. Samir Foch in second. Jan-Niklas Ebrich rounds out the top three. Nat Thomas in fourth. Coleman Corkery in fifth. Lucas Romanik, Silva Pinmets, David Ohak, Chris Gooch, Peter Dombret, I think will get 10th as a result of Gurgly Kunsabo's post-race penalty. I did say it would happen. 130 seconds, but there is your Nightmaster, newly crowned here tonight at Suzuka International Racing Course, Suzuka Circuit, Daniel Ginchard from PC Boys in the number 37. That's a sign of a very happy driver. Very happy driver indeed. So that is it. Dan Ginchard does it again. And to be honest with you, there's quite a few things we need to ask people. However, first up, let's go to our first interview. Third place again for the second time in both Nightmaster races, Jan-Niklas Ebrich. Jan-Niklas, good evening.
Good evening.
That was such a difficult race. I thought, the Lexus has always been a really, really good car for you. I mean, obviously last year, a few casual race victories. Third at the inaugural Nightmaster race at Spa-Francorchamps on the 9th of February. It could have been a possibility that you might have been in the fight, but Samir and Daniel just rode off into the distance, didn't they?
Yeah, they were really fast, especially in the qualifying. But yeah, I had some problems with the Lexus here at Suzuka because no matter what I've done to the setup, the car wouldn't go faster. And in the qualifying it was a huge distance to the top. But I think the race was really great. For most of the laps I had the same pace than the top two guys. Maybe Foch was a bit faster in the first half of the race. But the pit stop was perfect. There I overtook then Thomas, who would have liked to overtake on track because it would have been a great fight. But nice race overall.
Well, Jan-Niklas, congratulations. Third place here tonight. Well done.
Thank you.
Let's go to our runner-up, Samir Foch. Samir, firstly, you got a really good start on Dan Ginchard at the start of it all. But the pit stop, I understand that you only put a litre of fuel in, but did you change tyres in the pit stop as well?
No. First of all, I didn't put only 1 liter. I put around 30. I completely forgot that it was a thing that refueling costs time. Who would have thought? I put in 30, and I had a slight issue of really scary stop and go 30 possibility there. So I really slowed down in the pits to pray that I don't get that stop and go 30. My own fault. Didn't do enough pit entry practices and didn't nail the braking point. So I was a bit over speed on the entry, so I just slowed down massively to not get that stop and go 30.
Mm-hmm. I mean, also, there was the moment coming out of 130R. Now, I did notice what your team name said, very appropriate, because Luke Whitehead in the chat went, that was definitely one of those moments. But, you were catching Dan in the latter stages after the pit stop. The Ferrari was looking good. It was a case of what could have been because you got a textbook start.
Yeah, for sure. Start was, that was more on the winner to lose that start because I played the start perfectly. He just lost out on it, and the 130R. I'm happy I saved it and didn't put it in the wall. That was really close, and with the back marker there as well. Probably had a code brown there as well for the pink McLaren that I also ended up rear-ending before the chicane. Very scary moment. I was catching, but I wasn't really sure about my chances. Only real chances here for me with a Ferrari high wing would be a mistake from the AMG, but it never went that way. So. Yeah, I'll take the P2. A bit disappointed. I think the victory was definitely mine to lose here, but I'll take P2.
Well, Samir, thank you for joining us tonight, and well done. We'll see you next time here on World Pro Racing.
Thank you.
Okay. He's not only the Rainmeister, he's now the Nightmaster. Dan Ginchard, congratulations. Well done.
Thank you.
qualifying was rather close between yourself and Samir. Let's be completely honest, because it was less than a tenth. You know, it was about finding those minuscule amount of times. Now, it's not easy in the dark, is it?
Definitely not. This is one of the first races I've done where it's been pitch black. You know, it's so hard to find braking points, and, you know, consistency was really key, even in qualifying, to try and actually keep it on the track and not end up in the barrier or something.
Now, obviously, you decided to pit first before Samir, and that played a really good strategy, but he came out only 1.5 seconds. Did you feel that there was going to be a bit of pressure coming from Samir towards the end of the race, because at some point he'd halved that gap from about 1.6 to about 0.8? Did you think that you were in any jeopardy at all if he kept on chasing you down like he had done?
Well, I had a lot more pace in the tank, but I was just kind of making sure I didn't get any silly track limits or spinning. You know, 130R every single lap was a bit scary, especially in the dark when you can't really see where the corner is. You kind of have to guess every lap, so that was pretty scary. But I think if Samir drove a great race. Sounded like he had a bit of trouble in 130R, but apart from that, he drove a really good race. Yeah, it's just unfortunate that we couldn't have those actual battles that I was looking forward to.
Yeah, I think the most code browns of the night for 130R was definitely poor old Ashton Cox. He had 2 of them. But Dan, you know, now that you've got the Rainmeister title, now the Nightmaster title, what's next here on World Pro Racing for you?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. I'm taking every race as it comes. You know, even today I entered after school, maybe at 5 p.m. Thought might as well. I'm bored in the evening, so I put on a setup from another track, and I did the same thing for the Rainmaster, and it seems to work all right. I think our setups from PC Boys are pretty good all round, so we're pretty lucky there. And yeah, I just put a setup on. I like the AMG. You know, we're using it for SimGrid, and yeah, it just went really well today.
Well, Dan, congratulations on your win, becoming the new Nightmaster, and let's hope that Alex Johnson is around so you two can have a battle over who is the true Nightmaster in the weeks to come. Well done tonight.
Thank you very much.
So that rounds up things here on World Pro Racing for another evening. A big thank you once again to everyone watching on TVM Sports in Malta, motorsport.tv, and our friends at Esports Television. I'd like to also thank again those watching on the World Pro Racing Facebook Live, YouTube and Twitch feeds. We'd also like to thank all our sponsors: Gaming Malta, Thrustmaster, GT Omega Racing, HyperX, where we're all gamers, and AMD, along with Melita, who have been powering this stream. My name's Alex Goldschmidt. That's it from us tonight, but join myself and Chris Buxton tomorrow for the second round of the World Pro Racing USF 2000 Series Championship at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Join us at 8:30 p.m. tomorrow night. So on that note, goodbye from me.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
It's just so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.